It's time to bring back exorcisms. The reality is they've never gone anywhere. Did you know that the Catholic Church still performs exorcisms? Now, I've personally seen things that make me believe genuinely there are people who are possessed. I am not a Christian, but I do believe in God. I do believe that there is evil. And the response I got from many people is, Tim, you're almost there. Maybe. I want to play just a quick few minutes from Ascension Presents, featuring Dave Van Vickle. And he makes some interesting statements about exorcisms and why they're performed. I recommend you guys subscribe to Ascension Presents to learn more about this, but I do want to show some of his video just for the context and for him to convey that understanding, and then I'm going to show you some news articles.
Tell people that I assist priests with their ministry of exorcism, the first question that comes out of their mouth is, are exorcisms real? Do they actually happen? I've witnessed many throughout my life, but it's also something that's really misunderstood. Hi, I'm Dave Van Vickle, and this is Ascension Presents. Decades ago, when I was a young man, I came into contact and became friends with two priests who were Roman Catholic exorcists. And for many years, I've had the chance to assist priests all over the country with this ministry. So are exorcisms real? Yes, they are real. Are they like the movies? Not at all. Not very often at all. In the movies, you often see this depiction of a battle between a priest and a demon, and you're wondering who's going to win. Is it the priest or the demon? Is it the priest or the demon? But we as Catholics know that the victory was guaranteed. It was won on the cross and given to the church. And through the church, like those graces of victory are dispensed. And you can see it in a very physical way through the ministry of exorcism. Why do they happen? Well, the truth is that when angels fell, right, part of their fallen nature is that they want to dominate everything. They want to dominate the world. They want to dominate history. They want to dominate geography, everything they can, including us. That's what they really want to come after. And so in this domination, they seek to take away as much freedom as possible. And in rare cases, demons are able to interact with us in pretty substantial ways. And sometimes in very rare cases, when a human cooperates with them, demons are actually allowed to take over a person. And we would call that possession. If we cooperate with that domination, they take more and more and more of our will. That's what you see in the movies, like in these movies about exorcism, is a case of possession where they're doing all kinds of crazy things that you can't imagine a human doing. It does happen, okay? Things like this do happen. And this is a really sad thing. It's also very rare. But in that case, the church is still assured her victory. And that's what exorcism is. It's an answer to the devil dominating a person in that way. The Catechism says that when the church asks publicly and authoritatively in the name of Jesus for a person to be protected from the powers of evil, we would call that an exorcism. The church is very careful before it proceeds with an exorcism. There are signs that we have to look for to see if a person is possessed, to make sure that it's not just mental illness mimicking some kind of spiritual ailment. The 4 signs that the church looks for before proceeding with an exorcism would be preternatural physical ability, so something like super strength or even something like levitation, knowledge of languages that they didn't know, like for instance, a victim speaking in ancient Greek or Hebrew, but they never learned it, clairvoyance, they know things that they shouldn't know, and then most commonly, an aversion to the sacred. They're afraid of holy things and holy places and holy people. They don't like to be around it, so they might feel a physical reaction to something like holy water.
So that's what I wanted to get to, and shout out again to Dave Van Vickle and Ascension Presents to discuss this. Take a look at this from the Catholic Herald. Demand for exorcism soared after lockdown months of COVID-19 pandemic. Priests told. Catholic exorcists say they are overloaded with possessed people. In the wake of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, I have seen what I can only describe as the willful tolerance of what is both figuratively or literally the demonic and what appears to be demonic possession. Videos of people cackling and freaking out and laughing like a demon in the movies. Now, I'm sure the secular liberal will just say, Tim, they're just mimicking these behaviors. They've seen them in movies. Perhaps, probably. Who says that demons make people act this way? But I've experienced things in my life, and I've seen what I believe to be true evil, and I think people need exorcisms. I recently had a conversation with a feller who's, for privacy's sake, I will not say who it is. And I'll keep the story a little bit vague. But they told me that they were a drug abuser. This is a news story, by the way. I have a couple stories for you. They were a drug abuser and they were becoming scared with how their life was going. And so they read this Bible verse where they said that they would give themselves unto Jesus Christ. And in that moment, he said his heart rate skyrocketed. He began to sweat and shake and have a very serious, what he can only describe as anxiety or panic attack, that he became so shaken and convulsing that he thought he was going to die and that he was sick. And he had people with them there that experienced this. This story was just conveyed to me recently. I got no reason to doubt whatever that story is, why someone would believe it. Maybe it's not true. Maybe it is, whatever. Sometimes people make up stories. But I've heard other stories. I've told the story of a man that I knew who said that he was also a drug abuser, degenerate. One day while he was in the woods partying, like, I don't know, they went camping or something. He went to go relieve himself. And while he was, a booming voice from within his own body said, "Why are you doing this?" And it made him panic. And the voice said, "Why are you doing this to yourself? Stop." And so from that point on, he never did another drug. He sought answers, and he found the Christian church. Again, I'm not a Christian. I know people are going to say in the comments, but Tim, if you're saying all these things, why don't you believe? Well, I believe in God. I believe that there are otherworldly forces, but the specific stories of the Christian church, I don't know that I believe. I believe there are forces beyond our understanding. I think we've discovered some of them. The electromagnetic spectrum is a force beyond our understanding up until we discovered it, and we can't perceive it, which means there's likely other forces we also can't perceive. And we don't know the true nature of the universe in its entirety. Even those of great faith don't, though they would believe they have a closer understanding than many, and maybe they do. Even those of great faith don't know the true, full mysteries of the universe. The universe is well beyond us. So I do believe it's fair to say that there is something well beyond us. But I've heard many other stories, and this one's for the secular liberal friends. DMT trips and machine elves and demons. I've heard stories from people who are not very religious, who have taken DMT, dimethyltryptamine, and they've experienced what's called breaking through the veil. With a high dose of this drug, they blast off, as they call it, and go to another place of nearly indescribable proportions. Some have told me on these trips, they've met people, they've met entities who have promised them power if they just give in. I don't know. There was a great article on Vice. I say great as in it was very interesting, where a man said that he did DMT and he met a purple woman who talked to him and told him things. He thought it was really interesting. He explained to a friend of his, and the friend said he knew the purple woman and explained in detail things he could not have possibly known, indicating that taking this DMT brought them to a point that actually exists and that by both experiencing it proved something. I don't know. I will say that I've had experiences in my life that I would describe as otherworldly. We even had, let me just put it like this. This building that I am in right now, it is a new building. We built it from the ground up. We laid the foundation. We structured the building. We did everything. Nothing was here forever. For hundreds, thousands of years. And we had what I can only describe as a poltergeist phenomenon in this building. And for personal and private reasons, I don't go into details, but let me just say, it defied logic and reason. I'm not someone who's a sensationalist who's trying to make content for the sake of getting all those clicks. And so I'm not going to just blurt out private details of other people's business. But let me just stress this again. And I know people beg me to tell a story. That's not my business. But I experienced it, as did many of the employees here. And it defies science and reason and logic. It's crazy. Completely. Let me put it like this. What happened is possible in physical reality. I'm not describing any kind of being manifesting or anything like that. But this experience that we had here, for it to have occurred, would be like winning the lottery twice, back to back, in 1 week. The probability of these events occurring are so astronomical, it would defy logic. So I wouldn't call it a miracle or anything. I just said poltergeist phenomenon. And the story is, and I'll keep it, again, for privacy's sake, vague. The story actually is not a singular instance, because the singular instance of the story, we kind of just said, wow, that was weird. And it happened twice in very odd and specific circumstances that defy science. That's the only thing I can say. And we are all left shocked and scared. But let me just say this. Not the only thing I've experienced in my life that is indicative of something otherworldly or from beyond. And beyond meaning, of course, it is reasonable to say there are things that exist that we've not yet discovered. So I take a look at this world as it currently stands. And I have one observation. There is a decline in Christianity, and there is an increase in depravity, degeneracy, immoral behavior, but also what I would describe as demonic behavior. And I'll explain. I'm not saying demons are real. By all means, you can believe what you want to believe. But I think whether it is because of the secular view that without community and a moral foundation, people degenerate and eventually find vices they chase after, perhaps, or with the loss of faith, demons can enter people's bodies. I actually think that there is a bit of demonic, and that is true. So I'll describe it like this. For those that would simply say, without faith, people have no morals, fine. That's an explanation, right? It's science. I have personally experienced what I can only describe as behaviors that defy human vice. And that is to say that, reasonably speaking, you'd expect someone to do things that we would describe as evil for an impulse, personal gain, personal satisfaction, anger, greed, envy. There are things that people do that we can explain why they do it. Even crazy people, we can say are crazy. Why did a person go and commit this heinous act? Mental illness. They thought the person was a giraffe, or who knows. They believed fake news and they took action. It's traceable. What about somebody who wants to make money so they rob a bank and kill somebody? That's greed. What about somebody who is angry at a neighbor who has a really nice car and a beautiful wife and kills him and steals his stuff? We call that envy. What about two neighbors that are feuding over a property line dispute relating to some shrubs and some carrots, and they get into a fight and he beats the other guy to death? Wrath. We understand those motivations. That is human motivation. Then there is demonic motivation. Things that I have seen and news stories you can look up that defy human vice and even mental illness. Now, you can tell when someone's crazy, even when they sometimes kind of seem sane, they believe things that don't make sense. You can tell when someone is driven by vice because their motivations speak loudly. But I have personally experienced slights against me with the Kubrick stare, they call it, where they look down and they grin. Actions that served only to hurt people, that did not generate any resources, did not steal any resources, did not even satisfy wrath, a person's anger. I have seen and personally experienced slights and wrongs from people who have no possible motivation other than I want suffering and pain, chaos, and destruction. That to me is demonic. Because humans are pretty predictable. You have humans that desire and do things. The gangbangers in Chicago and the urban youth killings and shootings. It is honor-based. It's really predictable. Don't offend or slight me. Don't infringe on my turf or territory, and I'll leave you alone. So it's about making themselves look tough and be the top. Very obvious motivating factors. It's not without some reason, though the reason is really dumb. Like I already mentioned, bank robbers, muggings. Now you take a look at the killing of Irina Zarutska. A man got up and slashed her several times, stabbing her in the throat and chest, killing her. And that borders on the demonic and into the demonic, I would argue. Now he says he's mentally ill. On the phone with his sister saying, yeah, it's that thing in me that's telling me what to do. This thing that's inside me. Is that somebody who's mentally ill? Maybe. What if the thing that was inside of him is the demon? The entity that he let in? I don't know. Or maybe he's just lying. Maybe he just wanted to kill someone. Okay. The secular view in my mind is that action is demonic. It serves no purpose. There's no rage. There's no, I mean, there's perhaps some envy, rage, and motivating factors in that the media has said white people are bad, this and that. And so the person genuinely believes something that is not correct. But it leans into the demonic in that it doesn't actually do anything. Attacking this person doesn't change those circumstances, doesn't rectify any past wrongs. And so by all means, one could argue that they're just angry. No, I would argue while that's possible, I'm not dismissing it. There is also, in my view, a probability of some kind of possession. I think there is something out there that motivates people to be evil. Because when I look at a lot of these attacks, these reckless killings, it serves nothing. Again, there is no human motivation behind it, no ideological gain. It seems like the only reason to do it is to make people scared, to damage, to destroy. And that, you may just say, well, it's because they're left or because they have this view. But that is the demonic. It is a force of destruction, chaos. It defiles that which is good. Maybe it is all natural. Maybe humans are just like this. Or maybe there's an unseen force. And that is why Catholic exorcists say they are overloaded with possessed people. Because something is happening. When I hear these stories, I'll tell you this, when I hear these stories and people say that they've personally experienced exorcisms, like Dave said in that video, they've seen it. I've met people who've personally witnessed it. There's the secular argument. It's a mentally ill person, just placebo effect. They're being told they're being exercised and they're going along with it. Maybe. But maybe it's real. Take a look at this from Nat Geo. The real history of exorcisms. Oh, come on. I just wanted to read the headline. The real history of exorcisms that you don't see in movies. They don't want me to read it, but that's fine. I just wanted to show you that they discuss it. There are reports that I think, like 1,000 exorcisms per year are happening. And I genuinely wonder if exorcisms really would solve this. I have a tweet. Actually, let me pull up the tweet. And we can read some of the responses. Because I said it's time to we need to bring back exorcisms. Here's my post. We need to bring back exorcisms with 2.1 thousand comments and 1.4 thousand, 1,400 retweets. Data Republican says the authority to cast out demons is real and is grounded in Jesus' victory over death. Tom Sauer says, look up Father Chad Ripperger. Sour Patch Lids, this might actually fix it. I forget who it was, but somebody after a show one night said, I don't really believe in God, but I got to say, I'm kind of starting to believe in demons at this point. And that was back in like 2022. And I agree with that. Adrian Curry saying, someone is close. Paisano. Funny, but actually we have need nationwide free mental health care for all Americans ever since the 2016 election. I saw it with all due respect. People across political spectrums have been victims of endless political propaganda to aim to divide us all. They even do it. Joshua Charles says, we've had them for over 2,000 years in the Catholic Church, that never went away. And that is true. But what I mean when I say bring them back is they are still considered obscure. They are not mainstream. But many said, look up Father Ripperger. All right, let's do it. He's on YouTube. Maybe it's time that we have a conversation. Let's see. Why does good allow evil? Father Ripperger. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. Is this his channel? Let me pull his channel, give credit where credit is due. Sensus Fidelium. Inside Catholic Exorcism 8 days ago. Let's hear it.
To unquenchable fire, where the worm dieth not.
Let's hear what he has to say.
Getting ready to buy or sell a home? Do you
Wait, what? Is it playing a commercial? Here we go.
The spiritual writers tell us, the fathers of the church tell us, that Eve committed 5 sins in the fall. And don't feel bad, Adam committed 8 in the fall. One of the first sins she committed was when she saw the snake talking, right? And she says, well, this is interesting, right? Now, she had infused knowledge. The fathers of the church tell us she had infused knowledge, and she knew that she should not be paying attention to this thing. That sin, the fathers call, is curiosity. It's the vice or the sin in which you pursue knowledge that's not proper to your state in life. Unfortunately, today, most people are watching a lot of TV, watching a lot of programs, because they're very curious about the types of things that we're going to talk about tonight.
I'm going to jump ahead.
This is when the person's thoughts bombard them. You know, the demons just bombard their thoughts. They can't get their mind off of a particular thing, and they're just always fixated on it. You're seeing a drastic rise in that because of pornography and things like that. People are watching that stuff, they're reading it, and they're viewing it on computers and things like that because it's so accessible, and as a result, you're seeing a lot of obsessions really getting extreme now. Recently, I wrote 3 books in psychology, which is actually how I kind of got sucked into this work, because originally I was trying to stay out of it. If you want to be an exorcist, there's already something wrong with you. And you shouldn't be there. So I was in a diocese, and because I had taught in the seminary for 10 years and had written these books on psychology, and I was actually giving advice to psychologists, or to exorcists already, because why? I wrote books on St. Thomas's approach to psychology and how different it is from the modern approach. Demons do not work with the modern paradigm at all. They don't. They're not even paying attention to it. They do understand human psychology the same way St. Thomas did. And that's why exorcists were calling me, because they wanted to know how the faculties interrelated and how they were working and how the demons were affecting this. And then slowly but surely, because I was the only one, there was a case that showed up in the diocese. Diocese didn't have an exorcist. I told them to bring someone in. They didn't, and they said, okay, well, would you do it as a last resort? I said, yeah, as a last resort. So the next thing I know, I got stuck with all the caseload. The point being in all of this is that they did a study, and they found out that at least 25% of college-age students have either been on therapy or are currently on some type of psychotropic drugs.
Wow.
25%. Which actually fits my theory that the percentage of people that are diabolically obsessed in this country is somewhere around 25%.
Wow.
It's that high. Because too many people are simply doing things that are opening the doors to let the demons in to affect them. They're committing grave matter. I mean, serious sins, mortal sin. The church has a reason why they call it mortal sin. What most people don't know is that the proper effect of every single mortal sin is possession. It's just that God blocks it in 99.9% of the cases.
I really want to just play this through and listen to more of what this father has to say. Now, admittedly, I grew up Catholic. I feel that the church did a poor job for me in teaching theology and understanding and philosophy and all of these things, to which I got a better education later after I was about 18 and started reading a bit more books to better understand it. I've never come back to the church because while I do believe in God and I believe that there are entities or something, there are things beyond our understanding that exist. And there is an unexplainable, at least so far. There's an unexplained, I should say. The stories of the church don't. Again, I was talking to Jack Posobiec, and I said, the resurrection doesn't move me. I understand it as for some people, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I hear the story, and I'm just like, I hear it, but it's a story to me, you know? However, demons are real. I don't care. There are personal things in my life that I don't wish to go into detail on, but there are people, I'll say a little bit, that I've known for years that have betrayed me in ways that defy logic. It makes no sense. That would do things to cause harm to me, my friends, my family, simply for the purpose of harm. And the reason why I say demons is that I have witnessed people that I know and trust, their behavior changed seemingly overnight. Like they're a totally different person. And that's what shocked me. Their actions defied logic. It doesn't benefit them in any way. It serves no wrath. We are friends, not enemies. Maybe they're jealous, I guess. But how is it that one day To be fair, not literally overnight, but within the span of a few months, span of a week or so, an individual who is my friend and sending messages and, hey man, we'll see you when I see you, holidays, was all of a sudden completely different, as if they were possessed, intentionally causing harm, destruction, trying to physically and emotionally hurt people. It made no sense. I said, did they just have like an aneurysm and their brain switched? Maybe. There's always there's a scientific explanation for all of that, of course. But I would actually argue that saying possession doesn't defy science. I'm just making a probably stretch hypothesis. To be fair, the logic would suggest that for many of these instances, people become indoctrinated and then suffer mental health episodes, which changes their behavior. That's rooted in reality. It is possible that we can prove scientifically at some point that there are forces beyond our current recognition or understanding. Heck, we did it with the electromagnetic spectrum. So yes, very likely. In which case, personally, I feel like the better explanation is there is a force that has altered their mind in some way, whatever that force may be. Because typically, to get from point A to point B, there's a process. The idea that a person would wake up one day speaking a different language makes no sense, but that's what they say they look for. The idea that an individual I knew would wake up one day with a completely inverted worldview and then start causing chaos and destruction makes no sense to me. Unless they had a mental breakdown snapped, fine, I get it. But I'm just saying this, man. I understand when I say it's time to bring back exorcisms, the response is we still do it. We ain't doing it enough. And when I hear stories from somebody, like I said, where when they said they would take Jesus Christ into their heart and they had a convulsion and a panic attack and started shaking, and they had previously been a degenerate drug user and just messed up, I'm like, I think you were casting out demons, bro. I know people are going to respond with, but Tim, he was giving himself unto Jesus. I understand this. I understand. I'm fairly agnostic on those things. And I don't like using the word agnostic, but say undecided. I believe in God. I think God is observable. And the people who deny this are simply trying to find a reason to deny it. I have had more than enough conversations with atheists, theologians, Jews, Taoists, deists, whatever. And I think God is observable. Meaning, when you track reality, you do the math, you break it down. If what we know about science and understanding is true, then you can see what I describe as a Sudoku puzzle of the universe. Pieces we can see with pieces we can't. And in the pieces we can't, you make a logical inference based on what the math predicts, and it predicts the existence of God. That's my view. I think there are demons. I do. I also think there are angels. I don't know if the right way to describe them is angels or demons, but let's just put it this. There are positive entities and negative entities. There is a conscious force of the universe that exists. Your consciousness exists within the universe. The universe is capable of consciousness. We are the proof of it. And that means that what we experience as consciousness likely isn't the end-all be-all. You see a small fire, a campsite. You don't think that's all fire ever will be, because we know forest fires exists. We also know that there's raging fires of greater proportions. Consciousness, as a reaction of within the universe based on the principles of the universe, certainly exists at higher scales and higher degrees. How far it goes, I assume ad infinitum. Maybe I'm wrong. The singularity. But it stands to reason, at least a little bit, that there is a conscious force of the universe, whether you want to admit it or not. Call it whatever you want. Some positive, some negative. Some humans are good, some humans are evil. These entities and these forces may string us together, and if you let the evil in, it will take you. And one day you will look in the mirror and you won't recognize yourself, and you'll wonder why you became something so dark. But how do you crawl back? Now again, Catholics have their confession, and there is a redemption for all those who seek faith in Jesus Christ. At least it's my understanding. I could be wrong. But I think that's true. I'm not going to purport to believe what they believe. But I say it like this. We must always keep the path of forgiveness open. There are limits, I understand. But for most people, because if we do not, there's only one path they can go down, and that's the path of darkness. Those who have committed ultimate darkness and crossed the line, I understand why we don't forgive. That's up for God to decide. But for most people who have simply engaged in personal wrong, slights, degeneracy, bad behavior, that road to redemption must always be offered. So, we should bring back exorcisms. Subscribe! Hang out! Thanks for hanging out. We need to do, I need to interview some of these guys. That's what we got to do. We got to get them on Tales from the Inverted World Exchange. I want to be there. That's going to be fun. Smash the subscribe and like and all that stuff, and we'll see y'all next time.